Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this. It's a meeting of the Wastewater Treatment Plant. Sorry, this is my and the Landfill Joint Committee, 30th of August. Apologies. Have no apologies, or do we have Councillor Rush's apology?
I'll put in an apology.
Oh, no, there he is. He's in now. He's there.
He's in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So no apologies. We'll then move to the public forum, and I invite Marie Wright to come forward and remind you, Marie, you have 5 minutes to address the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. I am here today to express my profound disappointment with the services provided by Porirua City Council and their Three Waters agent, Wellington Water. I would like this recorded in the minutes as is presented today. There are 3 points I would like to raise. 1, deliberate contamination of Titahi Bay. For a number of years, I have been committed to bringing transparency and awareness to the sewage contamination of beautiful Titahi Bay. Of most concern is the continued bypassing of partial sewage from the treatment plant and the dumping of raw sewage from the pump stations, with frequent heavy rain events due to climate change and the increased population, and housing intensification will make this significantly worse. On the 30th of June this year, at the Community Data Sharing Project Plan meeting at Petone, Jeremy McGibbon confirmed that untreated sewage is being released into the sea from Rukatane Point and the pump stations at either side of Titahi Bay. When I asked him what action was being taken to clean this up, as is finally occurring for the contaminated Porirua Harbour, he said, "You can't expect us to build a storage tank, it would cost too much." So you've received an environmental award for your efforts with the harbour, whilst you turn your back on one of Wellington's most popular surf and swimming beaches. We remind you of Section 12 of the RMA that it is illegal to discharge untreated sewage to the coastal marine area, and the pump station discharges are illegal and are not covered by the stormwater or treatment plant consents. Number 2, the independent report of Veolia. Last year, Michelle and I were invited to the council chambers to meet with Wendy, Anita and Colin Crampton. They explained the treatment plant was experiencing some sludge issues and that Veolia had not advised them of a plant malfunction in August. They said the consent process would be put on hold and an investigation was to take place due to the issues they were having with Veolia. At the time, we thought this strange. Veolia has been contracted by Wellington Water for some 20 years for Moa Point and Seaview. When the report was finally made public this year, there was no mention of the significant issues with the clarifiers and the sludge processing, which caused at least 8 plant malfunctions, discharging filthy sludge into Titahi Bay in 2021. It was only after an official information request this year that the public learned of these environmentally hazardous events and revealed there is ongoing issues with the treatment plant. Wellington Water consents reports still maintain the plant has been compliant, but these events were non-compliant by the consent authority, and they were deemed considerably non-compliant by the consent authority in their 2020-21 annual report. The Porirua treatment plant has been significantly and majorly non-compliant for the past 12 years. And number 3, non-compliance of consent. And in June this year, after storms and 5 days of heavy rain from the 9th to the 14th of June, the signs at the beach were turned over to say it was safe to swim, when an official information request has recently revealed the pump stations were still discharging raw sewage into Titahi Bay. When I rang and asked the council for an explanation, Andrew Dalzell, who was acting CE as Wendy was away, attempted to explain that the signs are only used for partial discharges from the treatment plant and not used for a significant rain event. The consent in place at the present has no such stipulation, and we are surprised Andrew is not aware of this, as it has been in place for over 20 years. These 3 issues raised, and there are many more, show local authorities' deep lack of respect for the environment and the health and safety of our community. There is no transparency, no accountability, no communication, and the public has no trust with your cover-up after cover-up. It is disgraceful.
Thank you.
And I'm deeply disappointed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your 5 minutes is up.
Could I quickly read a thank you to one of the councillors? It'll take a minute.
No, I'm sorry, you can't do that. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? I have to say that as this is my last meeting of council, I really take offence to the word deliberate. Deliberate contamination is, I view that as accusing the officers of doing it intentionally, and I take exception to that. Now we'll move on to Brian Warburton.
Hopefully I've taken all the adverbs and adjectives out of my presentation.
I was going to say I might add a few, but carry on.
I'm here to talk about the wastewater network that services Titahi Bay. I seek leave to table the documents previously provided electronically to PCC staff, and these comprise a map of Titahi Bay's sub-network, Wellington Water's advice about what happens when the capacity of the Rukutani pump station is exceeded, data from Wellington Water confirming overflows at Rukutani Point pump station, at least 20 in the previous 2 years, and my complaint to Porirua City Council / Wellington Water referring to unlawful discharges and breaches of the RMA. The pipes and pump stations servicing Titahi Bay are not connected in any way with the rest of the Wellington Porirua wastewater network. Delivery of wastewater from Titahi Bay to the wastewater treatment plant is solely dependent on the capacity of a pump station at Rukutani Point. Whereas all the rest of the wastewater from Porirua and part of Wellington goes to the treatment plant via a pump station at Tanganari Road, it is the pump station at Rukutani Point that pumps all of Titahi Bay's wastewater to the treatment plant. The pump station at Rukutani Point has a limited capacity. Its maximum flow through is 135 litres per second. But at certain times, the flow to the wastewater treatment plant exceeds this capacity. When this happens, the excess wastewater flow, over and above the 135 litres per second, is discharged directly to the coastal marine area via the wastewater treatment plant outfall because it has nowhere else to go. When the flow exceeds 135 litres per second, Wellington Water and PCC have no other options, and that flow is guaranteed to increase with PCC's proposed housing intensification in Titahi Bay. It's fair to say that intensification has already increased the frequency of the wastewater outflows at the Rukutani Point pump station. This is a double whammy for Titahi Bay. Not only do we get the wastewater discharge treated or partially treated from the entire city and from parts of Wellington City, but frequently we also get a proportion of our own wastewater sent straight back to us into the bay without any treatment. Not only that, none of the so-called upgrades to the wastewater system will avoid these direct discharges of untreated wastewater to the CMA. For one simple reason, Titahi Bay sub-network is not connected to the rest of the wider network. For example, the proposed storage retention tanks at Parramatta, Plimmerton and the CBD will do nothing to stem the flow of wastewater from Titahi Bay to Rukutani Point, and therefore will not address the untreated discharge. I ask you to ask yourself, how will a storage tank at the CBD reduce the flow of wastewater from Titahi Bay? The answer is it won't. And but this is the solution Wellington Water has promoted to the council and the ratepayers. I'm sure this has previously been pointed out to the committee and to Wellington Water, and it has now been pointed out to the hearing panel for the wastewater treatment plant reconsenting application. Rightly, the panel has now sought an explanation from the applicant, that's Porirua City Council, Wellington Water. The panel's dilemma is this: how does it separate a potentially lawful discharge from the treatment plant?
Mr. Warburton, I need to interrupt you there. The subject that you are talking about is in the process of legal proceedings with the RMA and a separate body who is making the determination and making the assessment of the evidence and put in front of them. So speaking to this committee, it really is not the correct place. You have already, I understand, made your comments to the hearings, and that is the body that will make the decision regarding what you're talking about at the moment.
So I'm not able to state a fact.
Well,
I'm not asking for you guys to express an opinion. I'm just stating a fact.
Well,
the fact is that the panel has sought clarification from the applicant.
That's correct.
Okay, I'll move on. A bespoke solution is what is needed in Titahi Bay. This might be storage, upgraded mains, upgraded pumps, or a combination of all, or perhaps other options. But what is clear is that Wellington Water Porirua City Council is currently operating a wastewater network that is in breach of the RMA and the regional plan. In fact, Porirua City Council and Wellington Water segregated the reconsenting of the treatment plant application from the reconsenting of the network as a strategic move to avoid doing more. I want Wellington Water and Porirua City Council to address the breaches of the RMA and the regional plan. I want this in the first instance to mean no untreated wastewater from Titahi Bay is discharged to the CMA at Rukutani Point, and that all wastewater from Titahi Bay undergoes at least secondary treatment before it is discharged. As far as I know, this is also what the Titahi Bay community also wants. Just consenting the existing unlawful discharge, which appears to be Wellington Water's current objective, is not the answer this year or next. Thank you.
Are there any questions of Mr. Warburton? Thank you.
Do I understand, Mr. Warburton, that you are saying it's council proposed housing intensification?
Yes.
Well, can I correct you, please? This is basically a government mandate, which all councils around New Zealand. We are entitled to have feedback to it, but this is basically mandated by government.
No, it's not.
Yes,
We're not here to talk about housing intensification.
You mentioned it. You talked about housing intensification putting pressure on the system out there. Excuse me?
There is no debate.
We're not in arguments, are we? We've just been told by the chair we can't argue about things because they're part of a separate process, and now you want to do exactly the same thing.
Well, I think...
A question.
Chair, bring him under control, please.
I'll bring them under control. But what concerns me, of course, is in your statements, you're making comments that are so-called based on where, I'm not sure where they come from. Your knowledge, are you an engineer? Are you an engineer? Just ask those. You're making comments about what we should be doing and giving suggestions on how we should be fixing it, but on what basis can you make those comments?
Because Wellington Water have confirmed they're in breach of the RMA. I have it in writing.
Well, we're aware of that, and they have acknowledged that in their reply to you, to your submission, you have a reply. They are aware of that, and they're working through that process.
This year or next?
Working through that process. Councillor Rush.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, my last meeting too, I think. Brian, so I don't follow the Porirua City Council's planning documents, but you might be able to help me. Is there anything in the long-term plan to upgrade and debottleneck this facility?
It's something the committee should be able to answer, shouldn't it?
Asking you.
I'd like officers to answer that if they'd like to. Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Yes. Wellington Water.
Yeah, if I can answer, there is something in the 30-year infrastructure strategy regarding Rukutane Point Pump Station to be upgraded from 135 litres a second to 180 litres a second. It's not in the current 10-year plan. It's out in the 30-year plan.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, kura matua. Questions for the person bringing forward, Brian. Two questions. One will follow the other. Brian, how long have you lived at your current dwelling in Titahi Bay?
Can I ask how that is relevant?
It'll be relevant to the next question. It's regarding measures to be taken, measures that you have suggested council take with regards to the overall issues of discharge. How long have you lived in your current dwelling? An approximate would be fine.
22 years.
And in those 22 years, how frequently have you had someone come in to inspect the private network on your own property for any issues pertaining to infiltration or ingress?
Twice.
When was the last one of that done?
Be within the last 6 months.
Thank you for doing that. No more questions. Kia ora.
Thank you, Mr. Warburton. Next, we have Michelle Lawrenson. Can I just make comment, Michelle, before you start? You're making accusations that the minutes are not a true and correct record. The minutes of a meeting are the minutes kept are only of decisions made at such a meeting. You may.
Tēnā koutou, everyone. Māori would just like to thank Mike Duncan for all his work since she never got an opportunity to say this. Thank you so much, Mike, for all the work that you've been doing. It's truly appreciated. And Māori just really wanted to let you know that and to go on the record. Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you very much, Ewan. I thought it was a legal requirement for all minutes to be taken and to reflect true and correct record, but apparently not. But thankfully, this is all recorded. So I'd just like to clarify points from the recent Wellington Water report dated the 10th of August. Referencing for all of these points is made from official information requests. Point 3, finally, funds allocated for the upgrade of the Porirua treatment plant capacity will be completed in 2023, hopefully, as the UV and capacity upgrades have been deferred since 2018. An abatement notice, which is referred to in point 9, has been issued for these, you could say, deliberate deferral breaches. Nevertheless, they're being fined for it. Point 5, the plant is not compliant. The plant remains non-compliant and in breach of consent effluent quality limits for the reporting period. We'll explain why. in every reporting period pretty much since 2010, which is referenced on the Have Your Say Hearing Reconsent website. Recommend you do a bit of reading on that, particularly you, Ewan. Showing 10 years non-compliance and annual consent reports by the compliant authority. Point 7, there were a number of lengthy bypass events in June, not just one, but the 9th of June, the duration was pretty big. It was 11.5 hours. Wellington Water Official Information Requests 254 and 261 revealed overflows from Rukatani Point and the pump stations on the 2nd, 9th and 12th, 13th of June. In February, overflows on the 4th, 12th and 19th Feb. In July, 7th, 8th, 11th, 12th of July, and one on the 8th of August. This is quite a lot. The overflows are a result of the plant's inability to process higher flows due to the continual deferral of hydraulic upgrades, and these frequent bypasses result in exceedance of effluent quality limits. Point 8, a power failure and resultant undisinfected sewage discharge is a non-compliant event, such as occurred last month on the 12th of July. You could say that the reporting period covers that. In 2021, a UV plant malfunction in January discharged 11 hours of untreated sewage to the CMA due to a power failure, and again in March, discharging 17 hours of untreated sewage due to a pump failure. And this information came from request 043. No infringement notices were issued as Wellington Water promised these faults would be resolved. The power failure that recently occurred on the 11th and 12th of July signals that power faults remain, causing non-compliant malfunctions. We reiterate, for this period, the plant is non-compliant. Point 10, an independent review last year revealed Wellington Water was lacking in communicating with Veolia and the community. To date, there's been no notification of plant malfunctions events since this review, including signage that must identify a treatment plant bypass due to a plant malfunction, among other things like wet weather as well. This is in consent condition 19 and has been in place for 20 years. The independent review on Veolia at a cost of over $100,000 to the ratepayer was a distraction strategy for Wellington Water, as they were also paying Stantec to investigate disturbing and damaging sludge, aeration and clarify issues, which resulted in 8 plant malfunctions in 2021. There were no public notifications, Steve Hutchison, of these plant malfunctions, and the Stantec report was not made public. We only learned of this in an official information request in March this year, reference 208. Point 12. It's not clear if point 12 refers to the 2021 Stantec report, and it appears the sludge, aeration and clarify issues have not been resolved. And we'd like to know how many reports Wellington Water has commissioned Stantec for sludge, aeration and clarify issues. What is being investigated and how much this has and will cost. This is an official information request, please. Point 15 and 17, coming nearly to the end, Ewan. As the hydraulic capacity upgrade and bypass step milli screen installation will not be in place until 2023, UV can only currently disinfect 1,000 litres per second as the plant bypasses over this amount. The plant has been regularly bypassing much more than that, and in some instances 600 litres per second, which is why the effluent quality continues to be non-compliant. The hydraulic upgrade, when completed, will only cope with current flows. There is no design increase or a second stage plant to cope with the population explosion in the catchment from future housing intensification. Point 23, last point, and we encourage the councillors to read minute 9, and this is pertinent to this meeting because it was put in the report by Wellington Water, which we have provided for your convenience, and we recommend you seek clarification of what the applicant is intending to do. As the hearing panel has asked the applicant to rerun the dispersion model and requires the QRMA to be reviewed. A decision on the application will not be made until the hearing panel receives this information, which won't be September and likely not October. Ngā mihi nui, Michelle. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, Councillor Hayward. Oh, sorry.
Question as well, sorry.
Okay, we'll come to you. Councillor Hayward first.
Thank you, Michelle. Just going to follow up the same question. How long have you lived in your current dwelling in Titahi Bay?
It's got no relevance. I don't see the point, and I'm not really going to answer it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question. During that time, have you had anyone come in to check the private network on your property line?
I don't understand the question, why it has relevance to what I've just said. I was only commenting on these points here.
Okay.
Don't understand.
Councillor Foon.
Kia ora, thank you, Michelle. Michelle, I just wanted to understand, and you may have to repeat, but just how would you describe the communications to the public from Wellington Water on the sewerage overflows that have been experienced? Have they been happening?
Only for wet weathers, bypasses. We get no, very rarely do we, or if not, get any notification that there's been a plant malfunction. As mentioned, with the 8 plant malfunctions that we had last year.
I'm sure Wellington Water promised to improve on this, so would you say that there's been an improvement?
No, not for plant malfunctions. They do let us know for wet weather, and I do believe that they have improved in their notifying that the notifications across the board for Seaview and Moa and for Western and for Porirua, they're all the same now. So the consistency is good because you're not getting mixed messages. Bypass was bypass. So the messages should be the same.
Right, okay, but for the malfunctions, you don't feel like they're reporting properly back to the community?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Being none, thank you very much, Michelle. Oh, sorry.
Hand up.
Sorry, I forget to look at that, the yellow flag. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm just, maybe it's better for officers, but we're going to come to the report of the treatment plant, and there's a section there called treatment plant upgrade works, paragraphs 15 to 17, which seems to deal with the UV system and to fully treat all wastewater flows, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I'm just sort of trying to understand, is that project going to address your concerns, Michelle, partially or wholly?
Steve Hutchison will probably be a better person to fill you in on that, but since you're asking, not until the hydraulic upgrade will that make a difference, because it just passes out before it gets to the UV. So if the miller screens, if the semi-miller screens, which are at the back of which is highly unusual, they're usually at the front of the plant, if they were operating, then they'd be able to do a bit better job because they collect all the rags and then they don't want to damage the new UV. So they might be letting a little bit more through. I doubt it though, but you can ask Steve about that. So not really until 2023 will there'll be less bypassing. But our point was to also make that by the time 2023 comes along, they'll only be treating what the flow is now. It's not going to be treating any higher flows, which will be coming through. That's a big point. That's a very big point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Nice to see you back on track.
Thank you.
Is that John? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you to submitters. I'm just going to make a comment before I carry on the meeting.
Has this got something to do with what I've just said, or is
No,
it?
No. It's a chairperson's comment. Nothing about you, Michelle. Well, it is. It's just about this committee, and I don't believe. I accept that there is some issues and has been some issues in the waste water treatment station. But I don't believe that we are doing everything possible that we can with the money that we have available. And I don't think any of us councillors have ever wanted to see what's happening there with contamination. The water events have been unusual in that we've had so many of them, and that does create some problems. Now, so I think we hear what you say, and and we are doing what we can. But the alternative is, do we close the station down, and then what happens? So we have to work with what we've got, and I think the officers are certainly trying to do, and I know councillors really want the best for the community in Titahi Bay. We don't want to see the contamination as much as you do. So it's not that we're against you. I do take cumbrance for some of your comments about some of your criticisms, but in the way you've said it. But you have every right to do that, and we have a right to speak our minds as well. So thank you. Okay, on then. Item 3, conflicts of interest. We have none.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Item 4, notification of extraordinary business. There is none. Confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 31st of May 2022. I'll move that those minutes are a true and correct record. Councillor Duncan, thank you, has seconded. All those in favour, or any matters arising? All those in favour then? Against? Carried. Joint reports now. The wastewater treatment plant report to June 2022. I'll ask the office. I'll move it to put it on the table. Councillor Duncan has seconded. I'll now ask the officers to brief the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just introducing Mr. Hutchison and Mr. Gardner from Wellington Water. I'll take the report as read, and if there's questions or comments, I've got these gentlemen on hand to help out.
Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Leggett.
Can I ask Steve, item 7? Hold on. No, item 8. Sorry, the UV system and the lack of a generator. Is there another generator up there or generators? And have we considered putting a generator in for the UV treatment plant?
There's a generator on the main plant, but the UV system's on a separate transformer, and so there is currently no standby generator. So the wastewater's mostly treated by the time it's been through the milli screens and the secondary treatment process, and the UV disinfection's a polishing step in effect. But no, there is none at present. The power system's reasonably reliable, but you say that and it does go out occasionally.
So it would be possible to use the existing generator and wire it to the other transformer by laying some wires?
No, I don't believe so. I think the size and the distance would not make that practical. It's right at the other end of the plant.
Okay. So have we considered at all putting in a generator? And what's that likely to cost?
We haven't considered it recently. No, I'm not sure what the cost estimate would be. It would be significant. Several $100,000 type of order to install a permanent generator there.
Okay. Councillor Foon and then Councillor Rush.
Kilda, and I just hope I'm on the right page, sorry, but on the right paper. Just in terms of asset investment, what will this mean for Wellington City Council, and when will you notify us about what payments we will be required to budget for this?
What paper are you on? Sorry, can you just elaborate a little bit more?
So the new asset that's going in the storage tank, my understanding is that Wellington City Council will be liable for part of that asset and that we will need to be making payments in the future toward that. So is there someone...
I'm not sure that everybody's sort of shaking their heads here, so we're not sure. So hang on a moment.
Through the chair, I'm delighted to hear that Wellington City Council's interested in assisting Porirua City Council with that expense. I I guess the practical answer is that 1 July 2024, all the assets from Porirua City Council and Wellington City Council move into the Eastern Central entity. So our behaviour at the moment is that within 24 months, it doesn't really matter. If we can reach some sort of arrangement that would last for a year or two to help us with the capital funding of that, that's great. But after 1 July 2024, it's the residents of those 21 councils in Entity C that will be paying the ongoing expense. It's a capital item and we borrow for that.
Okay, so one more question then. In light of that, would it not make sense that the wastewater upgrade that's required for Ruakane Point is also prioritised as part of that?
Well,
Would it not make sense to get that in ahead so that it becomes part of Entity C's priority work?
As I mentioned before, there was an initial network improvement plan of investment to reduce overflows and to deal with the growing populations that was put together for the last LTP, and by necessity it was spread over a 30-year timeline. So the prioritisation, I'm sure, will be revisited every few years. I'd rather not speculate on particular movements.
And
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Rush.
Yeah, just to be clear, we're on item 6.1. You ran through them really quick as usual, Ewan. No, I wasn't quite sure, to be honest. I wasn't at the last meeting, so
No, it's
sure if I was supposed to be approving the minutes or not. So where are we?
We're on the Joint Committee Wastewater Treatment Plant Report, which is page 7, and it's report number 6.1.
Thanks very much. So that talks about the treatment plant upgrade works in paragraphs 15 to 17. So are they different from what the I'm hearing about the Ruakane works that are needed, what the public were talking about earlier?
Yes.
So where is so is the Ruakane works the ones that are prioritised sometime in the next 30 years? Is that correct?
Yes. Correct.
Sounds to me like we need to move it a bit forward, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. Shall we make a resolution that we ask the powers that be to maybe accelerate that work?
We can't do that at this meeting.
Well, I can. And whose responsibility would it be? Would it be Porirua City Council working with Wellington Water, or is it a joint Wellington City Council, Porirua City Council project? Sounding to me like discussion before that it's probably driven by Porirua.
Mr. Down, you something to say?
Sure. The reprioritisation of the program as presented in the current long-term plan will fall into the process for the next long-term plan. There's no reason why during the period running up that certain submissions can, appeals can be made to it. However, as Mr. Dalziel pointed out, the greater likelihood is that the next long-term plan for Porirua City Council won't include the three waters anyway. Our best option here is make sure we've got the best long-term plan in prior to Entity C coming into effect.
What about one that's
Comments from the floor, please, from the public.
Yeah.
I
would encourage us to get whatever we can into your planning documents before the transition happens.
Yeah, I think
because otherwise you'll be competing with the Napier guys who want decolonisation. Of course, Wellington Council's got its upgrade already sorted into Moa Point. It's clearly, every time it rains, this happens. Going into your harbour. It's your harbour.
Would you like me to comment, Mr. Chair?
yes, Mr. Dizdell.
Through the Chair, just to remind the committee that last year Porirua City Council doubled its capital that it gave to Wellington Water. It gave Wellington Water $36.8 million and Wellington Water spent $39 million. This financial year, Wellington Water has approximately $52 million to spend, and the following year I think it's up about 62. So the conversation is really, what you're asking for is you reprioritise one project out of the 52 million, but something else drops off. So perhaps a reservoir doesn't get done or some other thing. So we can certainly look at what's in there, but it's in the long-term plan that will go through into Entity C. It's just what other part of the community misses out. So that's the worry or concern, I guess, if you make a resolution along the lines that you're suggesting, Councillor. And from the council's point of view, we're trying to fund as much capital work as possible to fix up these situations right across Porirua, but it extends to drinking water, wastewater and stormwater.
Okay. Well, it's not for a Wellington City Councillor to be telling other people how they should be running their water assets, but it does seem to be a little bit at odds of what we would be doing, I suppose, but that's your call. Is that Mayor Baker I can see in the corner there?
Yes, that's correct.
It is. Okay. Well, Anita, you've got this, I suppose, so...
I think Councillor Rush, this council is obviously very concerned about the future of the Three Waters, and that we also know that we have to put the very best case in there because we know there's an awful lot of work needs to be done, and we don't want to be at the bottom of the heap. So our officers are already making noises and making about it, so rest assured that we'll be like every other council in New Zealand, I guess, putting their hand up and want to be treated first. But there is the importance of the community, that we're talking about health and the issues here. It's certainly something that we strongly believe that's got to be fixed, and we want it fixed. It's just that we don't have the money, as much money as what's required to do everything at once. Can I just ask a question before I carry on? One of the submitters made a comment about the storage tank not assisting the process in Titahi Bay. My understanding, it will assist the process because it will store it and it won't get to the outflow as fast as and cause some of the issues. I mean, if that's incorrect, have I got that wrong?
So the wastewater goes back to the CBD, so it can go into the storage tank.
The storage tank at Porirua City Centre will not affect Titahi Bay. It is separate, as Mr Warburton pointed out. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, that's my oversight, Councillor Leggett.
Oh, sorry, I can't help commenting, Councillor Rush. Yes, and as you admitted, you are trying to teach your grandmother to suck eggs. As if we haven't considered these issues. As we say, we're very genuinely interested in the issues that were raised by the Titahi Bay residents. But there are also other things that require work in our network we deem those to be more important at that time. There's always space to relook at it, but that means that other projects won't get done. And so excuse me? So that means that the water... No arguments with the public, please. And public are not allowed to speak. I'm sorry, if you continue, I'll have to ask you to leave. I just made my comment to Councillor Rush. I have another question then. So 17... Oops. Now I've lost it. Right. So this is for the quarter up to the end of June, correct? So it mentions there about phase 1 under item 17. We're just about at the end of Q1. Have we made? Is that going to be completed by the end of Q1? Phase 1.
I believe that temporary screen has been put in place and is operating now. I believe. It was initially turned on, then turned off for some modifications. But my understanding is that phase one is largely complete.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, I'll confirm that my understanding with officers, Wellington Water officers, is it is complete. And if you look at the A3 spreadsheet of the capital projects under the hydraulic upgrade, that first bullet point there, phase one of the hydraulic upgrade, which involves the installation of the new millie screen, which is completed. So it has been completed.
Sorry, your turn.
Kia ora, koro mātua he pātai anō. Actually, I'll start by acknowledging that, yes, this is your last chair, so I'm pretty sure this might be the last chance I'll say thank you for your service. I also want to spend time to actually mihi, as this is the last meeting of the term, he mihi ki ngā kai mahi mo te mahi o tērā rohe. The individuals who are actually on the shovel doing the work, they get ignored a lot in this conversation about operations, investments and managerial practices, but they are still having to do the work on the ground. We should take time to think about that in the context of this meeting. Point 8 has already been covered, so I don't want to go back to that. Point 6, the activity brief. Can I just get an assurance from officers that the incoming committee will receive a report on progress regarding the activity brief around odour at the plant?
Certainly, we can include that in the next committee report.
Sub to that question, can I just also confirm that the activity brief is not just including Pikiriri Farm, but also the surrounding properties near the plant itself as well?
Yep, the activity brief will be about ensuring no objectionable offensive odour beyond the boundary of the site. To date, my understanding is there hadn't been any complaints from the sites to the east, but recent developments on the south of the site on Pikiriri Farm subdivision have revealed more odour than was previously realised.
Okay, next question. Regarding points 21 to 22, can officers provide some commentary on what progress has been made, because this additional work is ongoing and is expected to be completed in August? I've just quoted point 22. This is almost the last day in August. Care to give an update, please? Kia ora.
Through the chair. Yes, it has taken a little bit longer. There has been progress made with the minutes, the directions from the commissioners. We understand that actually it might be pushed out quite a lot longer, I think, as Michelle alluded to, and that's in relation to rerunning the dispersion model and the QMRA.
So, to that question, point 23, the expectation of September and October is now no longer valid?
Correct.
Sup again. So was this conclusion known before the tabling of these documents in the public? Because obviously we wouldn't want to put out documents that were incorrect, knowingly incorrect, right?
Correct. Yeah, it wasn't known at that point. This report was written on the 23rd of August. Would have been before the 23rd of August. Sorry.
Okay.
The minute which was tabled by Michelle is dated 23rd of August. The report that was tabled here was written several weeks before that. So there's been further information requested from the commissioners on this technical matter, which the technical experts are working on reaching agreement on the methodology still.
Can I just get assurance from officers that in the future for reports that they will be careful with their language to assure that if there are changes that they may be that the reports they put out in public forum may be subject to change?
Mr. Chair, we can do that. I just wanted to put a reminder in that the report is for the fourth quarter of previous financial year. Yeah. The information presented in here is representing up to 30 June. That doesn't mean we can't add in a little additional comment or give an update to the committee, but it is for the final quarter of the previous financial year.
I appreciate the response. Next supplementary question relating to point 10, and the has been alluded to the project our A3 document. Community engagement plan, it has a deadline again of August of this year. This is on page 13 for everybody else keeping track on that. Create a community engagement plan. The status is at 29 August is in orange and deadline is 27 May. Care to give some commentary on how that's all going, please?
Might ask Jeremy McKibben, who's online, to comment on that if he's able to. I'm not intimately involved in that activity myself.
Who's on? Oh, here he is. Yep.
Yes, through the chair. We are still working on that. So as far as the progress of that work, Michelle alluded to the fact that we've consolidated the notification process so that it's consistent across all 4 of the regional wastewater treatment plants. The next stage is in consultation with the community, and we have already improved our notification process via our website. So that work's ongoing.
Sup. To officers, I'm trying to understand in that response, what is the revised deadline or time frame for which this committee will be able to cite a plan as detailed in this report? Can someone give me some guidance on that, please?
We'll be able to table something for the next committee meeting.
Some fun of sub. Can I just confirm, can you give some explanation as to why there may have been delays in the implementation of getting this plan together? Because that's not made clear either. Is there something that I'm missing as to why this is so difficult? And I hope it doesn't rhyme with rovid.
No, there's been a number of factors that have been involved. It's rather more complex than we had expected, but we're working through it.
Thank you. No more partai. Kia ora.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Duncan.
Relates to item 12, and it tells us that there have already been 2 reports provided to explain the issues that need to be resolved with the solids handling. And then item 13 tells us that Stantec's completed the scoping of the solids, but they need further investigation. Is this investigation on top of the 2 reports that have already been prepared?
Of the 2 reports prepared, the first one was on the clarifiers, the big settling tanks and their capacity, and they were found to be okay, provided that the second part, that the solids could be reduced and removed from the plant. And so the detailed work which Stantec are working on at the moment is really about that capacity upgrade of that solids part of the plant, which was that second investigation report.
And the next item 21, the hearing panel requests further analysis and expert conferencing on hydrological modelling due to be completed in August. Is that completed?
No, as referred to earlier, the hearing panel have come back with more questions and in that 23rd of August minute, which was tabled by Michelle. So more detailed work. So it's yeah.
Last one, page 13, the performance management review in that looks pretty woeful. What's the problem with that?
Page 13, review implementation dashboard, July 2022.
Sorry, was that question directed to me? What is the question?
It's about to be.
Through the chair, Jeremy, the councillor has asked about the A3 spreadsheet on the review implementation. The project management progress is only sitting at 36%, and he's just asking about the delay.
That's for the overall project management. So that involves the progress for the asset management planning. The ISO 55000 accreditation and a number of other items that are long run targets, and so yeah, that's just, I mean, yeah, they're not short run targets like others have been in this program of work.
Thanks, that's me done.
Okay. Being no, Councillor Hayward.
I seek leave to ask one more question.
Yes.
Because it's come up in this previous question. So consider it a supplementary. Performance management, the line operator SOPs updated. Standard operating procedures. This committee earlier in the term had asked officers about the progress on the SOP document for operation of the plant. According to this report, progress thus far, as of the last quarter, is 0. Why is it taking so long to get SOP documentation for this plant finalised? Because the operator has had this plant in its under the contract for several years now, and it is still reporting 0 on here. Please explain.
So through the chair, we've prioritised this work in, I guess, in order of risk, and the standard operating procedures are a lower risk than some of the other items. So we have prioritised training for the operators, and the next, the further work to carry on is around the standard operating procedures. So yeah, it's purely based on risk and priorities.
Okay. Being no further comment or questions, I'll put the report then. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We're now on to item 6.2. Councillor Rush, 6.2, that's page 14 of the...
You never actually waited to see my signal, Mr. Chair. Didn't see if I voted yes or no.
Okay, sorry. I overlooked looking on the screen. How to vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving, so I'll move 6.2 to the, which is the treatment plant financial report, landfill financial report for the fourth quarter. I'll move the paper, seconded by Councillor Duncan, open for discussion, or before that, Officer David Dow, please. Down, anything?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just take the report as read and ask if there's any questions.
Questions of the officers, Councillor Duncan?
Yeah, mine relates on page 24. Look, there's a number of issues with lithium batteries there. Are they allowed to be dumped, these batteries? And is this it seems to be a pretty frequent thing happening with fires being started by them?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, that question relates to item 6.3.
Yeah. This is the financial.
I'll raise it then.
This is the financial report that we're talking about? Okay, Councillor Foon. Councillor Foon or Councillor Rush? Who's got their hand up?
Me, thank you. Just in terms of increased revenue, do officers have any idea where that revenue, why it's increasing in terms of the volume? So it relates to the other paper as well, but really, where is the increased revenue and volume coming from?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the increased revenue comes from the increase in tonnage coming into the landfill. With regard to where that's actually coming from, it's growth. There's been an increase in the amount of operational material we're using, but overall it's just a very gradually increasing demand on the landfill.
Okay, thank you.
There being no further comment then? Or questions? All right, I'll move the report then. All those in favour say aye.
Aye, that's easier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Fiddling around with the buttons, which is the problem that we've been having.
Your hand's up permanently there, sort of on the left-hand side. It's gone now, thank you. Okay, we'll now move to item 6.3, which is the Spicer. Thank you, officers from Wellington Water. Sorry, they've gone. Item 6.3, this is the Landfill Joint Committee update for April, and it is on page 19. So I'll move the report to get it on the table. Mayor, seconder, thank you. Oh, you seconded it? Councillor Hayward seconded that, sorry. Open for discussion. Now, Councillor Foon, you've got a question you wanted to ask before? You're on mute now. We can't hear you.
Boo.
Okay, right.
Sorry, this is in regard to the paper, a question for the paper. Has it been tabled? Apologies. Yep, okay. So I think the query for us is we are getting a lot of complaints from our Tawa residents, and it is noted in the paper about the odour. Can you please let us know if, and just want to note, Councillor Day is also on the call today. Can you let us know if the mitigations that have been done, have there been less complaints recently?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Mitigations are underway. They have been underway for some months now. And with regard to the level of complaints, subsequent to this reporting period, twice through July, we had a couple of days of spikes. However, when you look at the average up until 2 weeks ago, it does appear to be quietening down. Key mitigation actions, we are now spraying an odour neutraliser directly on the tipping face each day. We've moved the tipping face away from the top of the hill, but we're also, most importantly, now placing over 15,000 cubic metres of additional cover, not only on the top of the currently active cell, but the old cell as well. So when you look at the map, that's a fair coverage over the entire site. That probably still has a few weeks to run, and then we'll see what happens to the odour complaints after that.
Right, and just a follow-up question to that, I guess one of the challenges with the 15,000 cubic metres is that you're actually filling up the landfill faster. Has there been any thought given to the root problem of reducing waste?
Yeah, just go back to the first comment, Councillor Food. In terms of priority, my first priority at the moment is to reduce the odour rather than hold back capacity. Secondly, and to an extent outside of this committee, but worth noting, we've got a suite of fairly substantial projects to bring to our council here under the umbrella name of the Resource Recovery Network. We're targeting some fairly significant reduction of tonnage into the landfill through that. And as I say, that will be coming to our council when we have more detailed plans developed.
Great. Can I ask a couple more questions? Thank you, Mr. Down. Just with the resource consent for the new landfill, do you have an idea when you think you'll be lodging that?
Our anticipated lodgement date is now March 2023.
Okay. And one more question, just around the sludge movements, just another noting that has increased quite significantly. What is the reason for that, just as in the report on page 26?
We've noted an increase in sludge coming in from time to time. I would need to check with the officers that manage the wastewater treatment plant. From my perspective, in managing the landfill, we're covering that within the conditions of consent with an adequate amount of waste that has to be mixed in. But I can put the questions to Wellington Water.
Great. And what is your ratio? Is it the same as ours, 4 to 1?
Yes, it is. It's 4 to 1.
Okay, thank you. That's me.
Further questions, Councillor Duncan? Was it?
Oh yeah, just with the lithium batteries.
Right.
Does that make sense? My question on that, just that it seemed to be quite a few of them in there, of episodes with them catching fire, and are you allowed to drop those things in the tip?
No, you are not allowed to drop lithium batteries into the rubbish bin, rubbish bag, or into the refuse transfer station. We do have a drop-off point, the e-waste point, at the transfer station itself. Separate container to put those in. However, we suspect that most of them are coming in through rubbish receptacles picked up commercially or off the curbside.
Councillor Duncan.
Yep, one other question was just on page 26 with the KPIs. We've got January to April 21, and then we've got March to June 22. Are we supposed to be making some comparisons with those times, or why the gap between those months? Is that different quarters or something?
Mr. Chair, I think that's a mistake on the actual presentation of the table. The table itself commences in January 21, and we just keep rolling it straight through. I think what we've done here is we've compressed the wrong period. Yeah, my apologies for that.
Well spotted, yes. Councillor Foon, is it?
Kia ora. I'm sure last time I was here, I did ask for an update on the health and safety, like just to understand your processes and a bit of a tracking, like a benchmarking. Appreciate no one wants more work, but as a governor, that makes me quite uncomfortable looking at the health and safety report.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we the table presented on page
24.
We do always drop. Yeah, we do always drop this table in.
Yeah.
As I mentioned with the KPIs, it's part of a long run on a spreadsheet that we keep.
Through the chair, the table was done at quite a low level. You get quite a lot of detail in it compared to other activities in the council. So we have had a conversation. We could sort of cut it back and do it at more of a high level, but it actually gives you good insight. The current thinking is landfills are quite dangerous facilities, and you can see everything that's going on. And Councillor Rush has asked before, someone fell off a bulldozer or something. We take this pretty seriously and get right in front of the contractor to make sure that investigations don't happen by WorkSafe or don't have to happen. So all the little things you see, batteries burning or something, we try and do and people driving with cell phones and things like that, it's taken up. So at least you get a fairly consistent idea about what's in front. But we have officers who meet on a weekly or if not daily basis with EnviroWaste about what's going on up there. So nothing is hidden.
I think, just it would be good to understand, it was processes. I think from this lens, I can't see the proper processes and what happens as a response, what your processes are to mitigate further problems happening. Even though you've outlined them verbally, I appreciate that, but it was really to understand what your health and safety processes are so that I can take comfort that you've got this and you've got processes to make sure things don't happen again.
Through the chair, we might look at putting in some narrative about some of the more serious ones where we've done investigations and actually determined what changes we should make, because there's one or two that come to mind where we have made or directed that certain changes be made, and we could give an update in the next report to that effect.
That'd be great. I may not be here, but I'm sure the next person will appreciate it. Can I just ask one more question? Are you going to undertake air quality monitoring for the Spicer landfill for the residents?
Yeah, we're currently working on the possibility of perhaps a portable or temporarily placed air quality monitor. Yep.
Great. And how would you report that data?
Without knowing exactly the format or the type of data that's put out, I'm not really sure. We currently keep our PCC webpage up to date on a weekly basis with complaints or anything that's been added, so could be part of that narrative. But as I said, I don't know what sort of information they might put out and what level of detail it might be in.
Okay. When do you expect that to be in place?
Unknown at this stage, sorry, Councillor, we're still working on it.
Okay. Thank you. That's me.
Haywood. Oh, no, sorry, yes, Councillor Haywood.
Kia ora mātou upoko. Point 14, page 22, talking about the resource consent process. Can officers give some commentary on the way that they will approach subsequent engagement with mana whenua Ngāti Toa in this instance with regards to the consent application?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we have had engagement sessions with Ngāti Toa to identify the person that we would like to contact on a regular basis. With regard to the development of the consent application, Ngāti Toa have agreed to assist with the cultural impacts assessment document. Beyond that, I'd need to get some detail from my officer, the planner in charge of that project.
Just on that, before I get to my next question, could officers provide some commentary in the next report for the incoming committee, just to clarify that so that it's not left in the dark for the next committee? Next one is just going back to point 5 in the odour complaints. I'm confused because it says that the new measure that was introduced was to bring in odour neutralisation. I thought that was already in place. Can we get some clarity about was it in or was it out?
Yep. The alternative daily cover was already being placed. There was an option to be able to mix a chemical in with that would act as an odour neutraliser. We never actually followed on that, but what we've done instead is been applying a separate spray, which is exactly an odour neutraliser. So that goes with the ADC, and that commenced 3 weeks ago, about 3 weeks. Probably a little bit longer than 3 weeks. 4 to 5 weeks ago, yeah.
Sub to that, can I get an understanding as to why there was this approach was taken and why there was a delay in that?
Yeah, that delay was due to significant delays in importing the required material from the US.
That's all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, being no further questions or discussion.
Through the chair, I think it's just timely to update the council, and goes back to a question that Councillor Foon asked about when would the consent be lodged, because we are delaying it, and we're delaying it to try and get the odour issues sorted before we apply. It's sensible to get that done. But I just want to notify the committee that we have got a sticking point that's just arisen with the regional council. In my opinion, if you wanted to make an odour complaint, you would make it to Greater Wellington Regional Council. But Greater Wellington Regional Council are now telling us due to staffing shortages, recruitment challenges, wellbeing, seasonal sickness and COVID-19 impacts, they're going to not have an after-hours service for odour. So we've been telling people out at our meetings at the Tawa Community Board, please, get in touch. We want it recorded. We want to investigate. So with Greater Wellington and ourselves, we're going to have to do some new comms for everybody to make it quite clear the route you go to make your complaint so it gets recorded. So that took us slightly by surprise. There'll be a press release done this week. We'll reach some sort of agreement. If Porirua City Council has to employ somebody to respond after hours, we will do so to help us through this period. So I just wanted that noted.
Can it not just go through the call centre? Can it not get logged through that after hours call centre?
Yes, we can certainly do that. I think the issue is if you're out in Tawa and you're making a complaint, you'd want to see it recognised by the regional council so that they could look at enforcement. We're seen as slightly, I guess, biased, if you know what I mean. So we didn't want to look like we were colluding. We were saying that's the proper authority to go to, but certainly our call centre or whatever else. And I guess it goes more than just a call centre. Who do you email? Who do you text? Or the
Aaron's home
whole
line.
thing.
Can't we just bounce them back and say, stuff, this is what you got to do? It's your problem, not ours?
I have that sentiment with you, Chair, but actually it's our problem. We manage the landfill and we've got to get it right. So they're saying, we've got the power to make sure the odour doesn't occur by our mitigation. So they're saying, get your house in order, please, Porirua City Council. So we are doing our best. But it has taken us by surprise.
Anybody else want to make a comment? Councillor Hayward.
A question to that then. Currently, how are complaints that are received by Porirua City Council relayed back through to Greater Wellington Regional Council? Is there a single source of truth for the Greater Wellington Regional Council in regards to the overall number of complaints that have been received by the community?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So far, our communications for quite some time with Tawa residents, for example, has been please lay a complaint with Greater Wellington. However, at a number of meetings we've held this year, we have said, look, if you need to call us, we will relay that phone call on. That enables the single source of truth up to this point to have been with Greater Wellington. However, we're going to have to go through a very quick transition to take that roll over with the change that's about to be made. So we would be the new single source of truth.
Sorry, just a point of clarity. Did you not say after hours? Are we talking about taking this over 24/7? Or just after hours?
My understanding, I'll just read the wording again, staffing shortages brought on by recruitment challenges, well-being, seasonal sickness and COVID-19 impacts. I did ask why the Regional Council couldn't employ their own contractor, but I didn't get a clear answer other than to say, well, it's your landfill. We think you should do it. So.
Oh, Councillor Day, you are, sorry, I should have welcomed you there. You've been there for a while and you can ask a question if you wanted to. Sorry, over to you. Do you have a question?
Thank you. I have been messaging Councillor Foon to ask some questions, so I've probably got most of them answered, but I guess this issue around the complaints is quite important, and it's good to hear that you're going to try and do some comms around that, because there's already been a lot of confusion, and now this sort of throws the cat amongst the pigeons a little bit, because the community sort of feel like they've been being pushed backwards and forwards, and they don't really know if their complaints have been being, I guess, captured somewhere, and that something can be done with it. And it is a bit concerning that the Regional Council, their messaging is a little bit mixed. And so I guess, it's trying to understand how you're going to do that messaging so that at least the community can have some clarity around what they need to do to move things forward. And also just within that, communicating some of the changes that you've done, and so the community can understand whether they should be seeing some change in those odour results.
Through the Chair, we agree with everything you say, Councillor, and we'll be doing that.
Okay, Councillor Duncan.
Did the Tawa people have access to our Anteno app?
Mr. Chair, just on that, we did explore the use of Anteno. It could be done, but without some modification. There's no specific. It's the odour complaint. We want it brought in a specific way. Tell us how bad from 1 to 6. Tell us what type. It's probably going to be easier with initial conversations with our customer services manager, simply to have the customer service call taker have an FAQ and say, here's what we want to know.
All right, well, that's it. The end of the meeting. Oh, sorry, I put the motion then. All those in favour of that report? Against?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, well, this being the last meeting of this group, thank you all for your participation over the last 3 years, Councillor Foon and Councillor Rush, particularly yourselves as well. My fellow councillors here and officers having to put up with, it's a difficult subject with some difficult community who is demanding perfection, life unfortunately isn't all about perfection, but we've obviously got some challenges, but we hope that they will be the Three Waters. If it's going to fix some of these problems, well then bring it on. I have my own personal doubts, but never mind. But anyway, thank you, and appreciate everything you've done over the three, and particularly you, David, and your fellow officers locally, yes, your advice and yours too, Andrew. Thank you. I'll declare the meeting closed.